For over 2 decades, Hugh Jackman has been popping claws on our big screens as our cranky Canadian Xman, Wolverine. From his first appearance in 2000's Xmen to 2024's Deadpool and Wolverine, Hugh has become the definition of the role for generations. But out of his many appearances, which Hugh Jackman performance truly embodies the sharp-clawed Weapon X? As per usual, let's dig into the comics to find our criteria. Number 1. A rough exterior, big softy in the middle. Wolverine is an arsehole to mostly everyone, but he wouldn't be a hero without having a heart somewhere under that rugged torso of his. He may be shaped by violence, but he forms deep connections and is often seen as a parental figure to some of the other X-Men, like Jubilee, Rogue, and of course his clone daughter X-23. Criteria number 2, the lone Ronin. Ah yes, the duality of man. The last point being about how he forms deep connections doesn't mean he isn't also a giant loner. Outside of the Japanese archetype of the masterless samurai, the Ronin, this criteria is named so because he's also a huge weeb, having a lot of his lore tied into his travels to Japan starting from the 80s, with Logan even fathering his half-Canadian, half-Japanese son, Dakin. I'm not saying a good representation needs to love Japan and watch anime, but that he is a lone wanderer seeking purpose across time and country. Number 3, the burden of immortality. Even the storyline Death of the Wolverine ironically deals with Logan's unkillable nature. A lot of great Wolverine storylines center around his isolation in this manner, like the ever-popular Old Man Logan. His healing factor isn't a gift, it is often a curse, leaving him emotionally distant, alienated from others, and seeing all he cares about die. And our last criteria, number 4, berserker instinct versus tactical fighter. Unlike other healing factor enabled heroes like Deadpool, Wolverine arguably doesn't rely on his healing as heavily. He is a trained, deadly fighter in his own right. But if you piss him off too much, he also enters into a berserker rage, and his ethics around violence also perfectly embodies both his more brutal instincts and his deadly tactical mind. For example, Wolverine at multiple occasions, like in Task Force X and during the Avengers vs X-Men arc, is perfectly comfortable with child murder for the greater good. Not even Deadpool is comfortable with that. Now let's look at the live action appearances of the Wolverine and decide which one is best. The best one is Henry Cavill in Deadpool and Wolverine. Good work, Superman, you might have lost The Witcher, but you got this one. Imagine if we went through all of that for that to be how this video ends. No, for that reason specifically, we are not counting cameos. So that includes his awesome Weapon X sequence in X-Men Apocalypse, even though that pains me and it's such a cool scene. It doesn't include his after credits cameo in Deadpool 2, and all the variant Wolverines in Deadpool's search for the one we're left with the remainder of Deadpool and Wolverine. Even though I do love that we get the brown suit and the brief Hulk fight and the Age of Apocalypse scene, this must be how Wolverine feels killing children. It's genuinely heartbreaking. The first movie up on the block is 2000's X-Men, where it all began. We get a Hugh Jackman that modeled his performance after a wolf because he didn't believe a Wolverine was a real animal. Under our lens, we definitely have his softer side as he forms a protective bond with Rogue very early on in the movie, and a hint at his wandering Ronin nature. He's a drifter, pulled into a larger fight that he doesn't want. Classic Logan stuff right there. Where it falls short is his berserker versus tactical fighting style. He is way more of an animal than a soldier here, and we don't really get any hints at his burden of immortality. With 2 out of 4 points hit, this is still a great introduction to the character, but let's move to X2 X-Men United from 2003. Okay, so in X2 we start to get a bit deeper into Logan's past, particularly Stryker and his involvement with Task Force X. We're starting to peel back the layers of Logan's history and finally get a peek into his Ronin archetype. We get the awesome scene where the Xavier students are getting attacked by some classic military fodder. And who's protecting the kids? Wolverine, famed kid killer. And within this scene, I would say we get a good mix of his fighting techniques as well. However, we only just start to feel the weight of his immortality though. The seeds are planted, but all of his history still feels fairly recent, and there's no hint quite yet as to how he will truly walk the earth forever slicing people up. I'd say it's a step in the right direction, but we aren't quite there yet. Okay, X-Men The Last Stand isn't known to be a great movie. Fairly divisive, it's got some cool scenes, but I feel like a lot of the criticism comes down to some character choices that are made, like Jean killing Charles and Cyclops. I will stand 10 toes down on this though. Wolverine isn't done an injustice. I'll cover what it does fail in our report card though. We don't get any of his wanderer energy. He's firmly a part of this team and the focus is on his interpersonal dynamics. He's still a hard ass, but with this focus on those dynamics, it's lost its edge. Again, there is a little touch of his burden of immortality, more just a tool he uses without any commentary on its ramifications. Okay, so we failed 3 out of 4, but heaps good Hesher, I hear you say. Didn't you say this character wasn't done in injustice? Well, I think this is the first time we've seen his brutal form of tactical violence. The subtext to such a fighting style is that Logan is the man who will make the decisions no one else will. It's why I've been littering in kid-killing jokes throughout this video. He will slaughter someone who may not deserve it if it serves the ultimate good. And what does Logan do in this movie? He walks through Phoenix fire to dig his adamantium claws deep into the love of his life, with Hugh fully leaning into the dramatic nature of the scene. Unfortunately, it's not enough criteria to meet in what we want to see in a Wolverine, but it's a worthy scene to highlight. Uh-oh, I just gave one of the worst X-Men movie props. How am I going to handle the almost universally hated X-Men Origins Wolverine? The film that canned Fox's plans to make a series of X-Men Origins titled films. Well, the movie does suck, but I'm gonna say that's not Hugh Jackman's fault. Before I have an angry mob at my door, I'm just saying that Hugh Jackman got Ben Batflecked. Great version of the character surrounded by a shit script, because it is undeniable. All 4 of our criteria have been met. Let me elaborate. His soft heart is on full display with his love for Kayla. The Ronin archetype is at its strongest so far here, and so is his burden of immortality with arguably the best written X-Men intro scene. That scene, if it isn't the best, is for sure top 3. Shows Sabretooth and Wolverine wandering through wars, lost in time, constantly pulled into conflicts that are not their own. So unfortunately, X-Men Origins is currently at our top spot. Next up, 2013's The Wolverine, and we finally have Wolverine. He's in Japan. He's chatting up Japanese girls. He's running through the red light district from the Yakuza. He is desecrating multiple traditions and not speaking a lick of Japanese to the locals. Sounds like every white man's holiday to Tokyo. In all seriousness, this is heavily inspired by the 1980s Claremont Miller run, drawing imagery from its source like being pincushioned by arrows and the inclusion of being saved from death by Yukio. This film perfectly nails the Ronin archetype, and it's not just because he's in Japan. He's haunted, reluctant to fight, searching for peace and resisting the future, all a part of that trope. He bonds with Mariko and Yukio. The big softy fights because he must. In terms of his savage fighting skills, he is a refined Logan at this point. Less berserker rage, but more strategic. This isn't to say some of his kills aren't still brutal as all hell. And the burden of immortality, well, that's exactly what the villain of this piece is after. Silver Samurai is specifically after the curse of his healing factor, and Logan's central theme is grappling with what it means to outlive everyone. For a comic-accurate Wolverine, this film almost hits the nail on the head. Okay, so now I've had 2 films that fit our criteria. Next up for Judgment Day is X-Men Days of Future Past from 2014. In this movie, Wolverine is more of a weary mentor role. So if we're feeling generous, we can give it part points of his soft heart as he interacts with the younger, more troubled version of his mentor, Professor Xavier. He isn't really savage at all in this, more reserved tactical fighter. The curse of his immortality is more displayed in the weary demeanor. He is tired of fighting, but yet he fights on. I wouldn't really give this any points for the lonely Ronin style of his characterization, so this movie gets a participation ribbon. It's not a bad Wolverine, it just doesn't have his core traits pushed to the front as he's carrying the emotional and narrative weight of this film. So the last movie we looked at, it ruined our run of 4 out of 4 hits for our criteria. But it's almost like the past heard me, 2017's crown jewel came through. Logan, technically set in the far-off future of 2029, is a modern western wrapped in a superhero skin. This might be some of Jackman's best acting in the role, but we've held ourselves to a set of comic book criteria, so let's revisit. Although the very popular Old Man Logan comic arc is incredibly different in story beats, the tone is very similar. His soft heart? Well, he cares for a dementia-ridden Xavier after it's heavily hinted that Xavier killed the rest of the X-Men. And if one example isn't good enough, we have a reluctant father in his relationship with Laura. Also, the scene with the family on the farm shows that he can soften up. The lone Ronin? Well, look at the start of the movie. Traveling around, refusal to draw anyone's eyes, the old warrior with no set purpose other than to escape to the ocean to give Charles some space for his last few years, while he also plans his own S-word that YouTube doesn't really like. The burden of immortality? It's the entire damn movie. Logan is exhausted after a life long past its due. We see him face off against an immortal opponent wearing his own face, himself, fighting himself in his prime. He is sick of seeing everyone die around him, his own healing factor is fading, and he's ready for it all to end. And when he does, spoiler, it's on his own terms. And one of my favorites, berserker vs. tactical. Well, almost every fight scene is rage directed skillfully towards its target. His anger is almost as sharp as the claws he maims with throughout the entire movie. And if that isn't enough, we get a god-honest berserker rage scene with his final showdown at the end. This is the most complete and devastatingly human take on the Wolverine, and another big hitter with a perfect 4 out of 4 score. And now for our most recent Hugh Jackman performance, 2024's Deadpool and Wolverine. Another fave flick of mine, we have a Wolverine who is a variant from a decimated universe. This version is burdened by guilt, having failed his universe so spectacularly that the TVA consider him a historical failure. Now, this isn't the strongest example of Wolverine having a soft inside, because he is a hard ass to almost everyone throughout the entire movie, other than when he's halting gunfire for Dogpool. But there is an argument to be said that he has a certain soft spot for Deadpool's struggle, something that's very consistent to their relationship in the comics. Like a lot of Deadpool's superhero friends, a better word is probably frenemies. Not only does this Logan fit the Ronin archetype, but he's a multiversal Ronin, a masterless warrior adrift through parallel dimensions. His journey with Deadpool becomes a path to redemption, echoing classic samurai movies. Now, the burden of a never-dying existence is arguably watered down when put beside Deadpool, but they do find camaraderie in this. Actually, both characters feeling like their immortality and the pain of survival has emotionally hurt them is the key to defeating Cassandra Nova at the end of the film. And lastly, we do have Wolverine showcasing incredible battle IQ while still being on the feral animal end of that scale. Okay, so we got 4 clear losers. Unfortunately, any movie of the X-Men titles did not reach a perfect 4 out of 4. And that's understandable. X-Men titles do have other characters to juggle, and Wolverine may get more than his fair share of screen time. These just aren't his movies. That leaves us with X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, Logan, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Okay, let's cut this list in half like Logan would to any child that got in Mutant Kind's way. I'm gonna get rid of X-Men Origins and The Wolverine. 2 reasons. The clunky writing of both make his emotional beats with Kayla in Origins and Mariko and Yukio make his soft heart feel more like a melodrama. Compare this to his death scene with X-23 and his relationship growth with the Merc with a Mouth. My second reason is that we never truly feel the wild animal side of his fighting style that is so iconic and synonymous with the character. Look at any fight scene in these 2 movies and he can be a bit cranky, but is just an action hero with sharp fists. During the Deadpool vs. Wolverine fight, he literally gallops like a wild animal. Look at him roughing up the thugs who try to steal his car tires at the start of Logan. It could be the R rating both of these movies have, but his rage is just on full display here. So now it's a battle between Deadpool and Wolverine and Logan. And I'm sorry for all my Deadpool fans out here, I feel for you, but I have to give it to Logan. As much heart as Deadpool 3 has, its most impactful scenes just don't reach the bar that is Professor Xavier dying by the hands of someone who wears his student's face. Logan laying down his life for his daughter, the hope for the future of mutant kind. Logan isn't just about claws, it's about the cost of bearing them. It's not just about rage, it's rage with a purpose. It's not just about Logan wandering, it's seeking redemption, and it's not just about fighting, it's choosing who to die for. Logan isn't just Hugh Jackman's best Wolverine performance, it's arguably one of the most complete superhero portrayals ever committed to film.